Sarah Patel had always felt a strange connection to the old, faded letter she found tucked between the pages of a dusty novel in her grandmother's attic. It was addressed simply to my beloved Ella, and the handwriting, elegant but runic in places, sent chills down Sarah's spine. She held it gingerly, as though the delicate paper might crumble at the slightest touch. This discovery came on a rainy afternoon in April, when spring winds still carried a lingering chill. As she read the letter under the attic's single bulb, her heart pounded, and an intense wave of curiosity and dread washed over her. What did this letter mean, and who was Ella? The year was 2025, and Sarah was 22, an English major at Jaipur University. She had returned home for a brief spring break, planning to spend her days reading, resting, and helping her grandmother, Kamala, organize the old family home. When Kamala mentioned she wanted to clear out some boxes, Sarah eagerly climbed the narrow attic stairs. The house was centuries old. Every creaking board seemed to whisper tales of generations long gone. Yet nothing prepared her for the moment she discovered the letter. "Look what I found," Dottie Sarah said, using the Hindi word for grandmother, her voice trembling. She handed over the letter. Kamala arranged her glasses carefully on the tip of her nose and read the first line aloud. "My dearest Ella, if this letter reaches you, know that I risk everything to keep you safe." Kamala gasped softly. Her eyes filled with pain-laced recognition. "This handwriting. It looks like your great-grandfather's." She paused, placing a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. "But what do these words mean? Keep Ella safe from whom?" Sarah stared at the letter, her mind racing. She knew that Kamala's mother, her great-grandmother, Ella, had disappeared under mysterious circumstances in 1947 during the riots that split India and Pakistan. Officially, Ella was never found. No records documented her fate. Many assumed she had perished or been forced to flee. The truth, however, remained buried in family silence and sorrow. Now, it seemed, Sarah held a clue to that long-forgotten mystery. That evening, Sarah sat at her grandmother's kitchen table, the letter spread before her. The kitchen was warm and fragrant with the scent of cardamom and fresh chapatis. A single kerosene lamp flickered as rain pattered against the window. Sarah read on, "I have arranged for you to leave tomorrow at dawn. The train to Amritsar will take you across the border. I have bribed a station guard to let you slip through. Promise me you will not look back." The letter ended abruptly, as though the writer had been interrupted. Sarah read and reread the letter, each word embedding itself into her thoughts. She looked up at Kamala, whose face was etched with grief. "Dottie, I want to know everything. About Nana, your father, about Aunt Ella. What happened?" Kamala closed her eyes, long suppressed memories surfacing. "It was a dangerous time," she began in a hushed voice. "Your great-grandfather, Ramesh, was a railway engineer stationed near Amritsar in 1947. Tensions between Hindus and Muslims were escalating. He fell in love with a Muslim woman named Farzana. Ella was my mother's name before she married and took her father's faith. It was a secret marriage. When the riots began, people were turning against each other. Ramesh knew that if the authorities discovered he had married a Muslim woman, he could be arrested or worse. So he planned for Farzana and our family to leave India and go to Pakistan." Sarah listened, her mind trying to piece together fragmented snippets she had heard as a child. "But what about the letter?" she asked. Kamala shook her head. "We never found out if the letter reached her. On the night she was supposed to leave, there were riots at the station. Gunfire, shouting, chaos everywhere. Ramesh went to rescue her, but was attacked. He survived, but Farzana vanished. Kamala's voice cracked. The papers spoke of bodies in the river. Some said many were washed away in the floods. We searched for months for any sign of her, but she was gone. A profound silence followed. Sarah felt the weight of 58 years sitting in the room alongside them. She swallowed hard. Dottie, I'm so sorry, but maybe there is more to find. What if I be careful, Kamala warned, her eyes glistening. Some stories are best left buried. The next morning, Sarah barely slept. She couldn't shake the letter from her mind. She decided to travel to Amritsar, determined to learn the truth. Before dawn, she packed a small bag, some clothes, her camera, a notebook, and the letter itself. Kamala's warning echoed in her ears, but Sarah knew that if she did not uncover the past now, she might never understand her family's secrets. The bus to Amritsar left in the pale light of dawn. As the vehicle rumbled north through fields of mustard and wheat, Sarah stared out the window, imagining her great-grandparents' journey more than 70 years ago. She felt every rhythmic bump in the road resonate in her chest, as though time itself were awakening inside her. By mid-morning, the bus pulled into the congested Amritsar bus stand. Rickshaw drivers called her name, offering to take her to the old railway station. She paid little attention. All she could think about was the long-abandoned station building on Station Road. When Sarah arrived at the station, she was struck by the contrast between then and now. What had once been a simple wooden structure, crowded with refugees and violence, was now a modern building, neon lights gleaming, passengers bustling in and out. She took a deep breath and approached the informally preserved part of the old station, a small corner cordoned off by rusty iron bars, where local historians had erected a plaque commemorating the tragic events of 1947. The plaque mentioned countless names of those who perished in the clashes. It also referenced a missing daughter of engineer Ramesh Kumar, but provided no further detail. Sarah's heart tightened. She reached into her bag and pulled out the letter. She noticed a small address scribbled at the bottom in faded ink, House number 52, Old City, Lahore. She gazed at it as though it were a riddle. Did it mean her great-grandmother had indeed crossed the border? Her only clue to piece together the rest of the story might lie in Pakistan, nearly 600 kilometers away. She said a silent prayer that she would find answers before darkness fell. That afternoon, Sarah tracked down a local historian, Mr. Arjun Singh, who specialized in partition-era archives. He welcomed her into his cluttered office, walls lined with aging photographs, yellowing maps, and ancient ledgers. Sarah explained her quest, showing him the letter. Mr. Singh's eyes widened. "I have seen this handwriting before," he whispered. "Your great-grandfather kept meticulous journals. If I recall correctly, one of his journals survived and is now stored in the Punjab State Archives here in Chandigarh. It might contain further instructions or descriptions of that night." Sarah felt a surge of hope. "Can I see it?" she asked. Mr. Singh nodded, retrieving a folder from a towering pile on his desk. "I'll make a call, but you must understand, accessing these archives takes time. I will arrange for you to visit Chandigarh tomorrow." Sarah's mind raced. She wanted answers now, but bureaucracy moved slowly. She thanked Mr. Singh and left the station, her steps quickening as she boarded a bus to Chandigarh. The evening sky was ablaze with pink and orange as she watched fields blur past. She pulled out the letter again, tracing the cursive letters with her fingertip, imagining her great-grandparents standing on this very land, their love under siege. Late that evening, Sarah arrived at her guest house in Chandigarh. She ate a simple meal of dal and rice, then sat on the small balcony overlooking a silent street. She opened her notebook and began writing down questions. Had her great-grandmother survived? Did she live in Lahore? What became of Ramesh after losing her? She felt a tightening in her chest, anticipation and fear mingling. The next morning, Mr. Singh met her at the Punjab State Archives. He escorted her through a maze of corridors until they reached a locked door. He produced an official letter of recommendation, and the gatekeeper opened it with a resigned nod. Inside, long rows of wooden shelves stretched down endless aisles, each shelf groaning under the weight of countless documents. Mr. Singh carefully extracted a leather-bound journal from a crate labeled Ramesh Kumar, 1946 to 1950. He handed it to Sarah with reverence. The cover was worn, edges frayed, and the leather smell, old, leathery, and somehow comforting, filled the air. Sarah flipped to the entry of August 1947. The handwriting was neat but shaky, as though Ramesh wrote by candlelight. She read, "Yesterday, I gave Ella the letter." She trembled as she read, tears streaming down her face. "Tomorrow at dawn, I will meet her by platform 3. I have bribed Safter, a guard, to ensure her passage. I will stand watch from a distance, her only protector. May God keep her safe." Sarah's fingers shook. She continued reading, her breath hitching. The next entry, dated only 3 days later, was scrawled in panic. The station erupted in violence. I saw her clutching her bag as shots rang out. I ran toward her, but a bullet grazed my shoulder. She dragged herself onto the train, missing one shoe. I screamed her name, but the train moved away, disappearing into the smoke. When I reached the tracks, I found only blood and a single shoe, Ella's left slipper. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. She sank into a nearby chair, her mind whirling. The journal continued. I searched along the tracks for days, but learned that the train crossed the border into Lahore. No one in Pakistan could confirm if a woman matching her description boarded. My hope fades daily. The final entry was dated September 2nd, 1947. I refuse to believe she is gone. I shall go to Lahore myself to search. If I never return, let this journal tell my story. Sarah closed the journal, her heart heavy. She looked at Mr. Singh, who had been standing quietly by. Is there any record of him going to Lahore? He shook his head. Nothing. He vanished soon after. Some think he died of his injuries. Others speculate he might have reached Lahore but failed to find her. He paused. But if you wish to investigate further, the National Archives in Islamabad might have some records of refugee lists or hospital admissions from that period. Sarah knew what she had to do. She felt a fierce determination rise within her. She thanked Mr. Singh profusely and boarded a train bound for Delhi that afternoon. From Delhi, she would take a flight to Islamabad, Pakistan, to search for any official mention of Ella and Ramesh. Each step felt surreal. She was retracing the steps of her ancestors, crossing borders that still bore scars from partition. She prayed that God would guide her. 2 days later, Sarah landed in Islamabad. The air was crisp, the city buzzing with morning activity. She presented her credentials at the National Archives, explaining her mission. The archivist, Ms. Aisha Khan, listened intently. Many records were lost or destroyed, Ms. Khan warned. But we do have microfilm copies of refugee registers and hospital admission logs from 1947 to 1949. Perhaps we can find a name or note that matches Ella's description. They spent hours poring over microfilm reels. Sarah scanned line after line, names, birthplaces, destinies of thousands who crossed into Pakistan during partition. At first, her heart sank at each negative result. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the microfilm machine. Then, on the fourth reel, Sarah's breath caught. Farzana Akhtar, age 22, amputee missing left foot, arrived at Lahore railway station on September 1st, 1947. Transported to Victoria Hospital. Sarah's pulse raced. She read on, admitted under refugee care. No family contact. Temporary shelter provided. No further records. Possible transfer to orphanage under care of Red Cross. The entry ended there. Tears blurred her vision. Ella's left slipper, the left shoe she had lost, matched this girl's missing left foot, evidence that she had been injured in a station attack. Sarah leaned back in her chair, a swirl of emotions engulfing her, relief, sorrow, anger, and hope. She had found proof that Ella had survived at least long enough to reach Lahore. But what happened afterward? Did she live? Did she ever return home? Who knew? Sarah closed her eyes, picturing her great-grandmother as a brave young woman, injured and alone in a foreign land, struggling to survive. As she gathered the microfilm notes, Miss Khan offered a sympathetic smile. I am sorry. Information is sparse, but perhaps a Red Cross office in Lahore might have more comprehensive records. Sarah nodded. I will go. Thank you for all your help. That afternoon, she boarded a bus to Lahore, the city her great-grandmother might have called home. The border crossing was tense. Guards rifled through her belongings, asking questions about her purpose. Sarah held the letter aloft when they questioned her identity, proof that she was family. After what felt like hours, she was allowed through. As the bus rumbled into Lahore, she felt a familiar mixture of dread and anticipation. The city's minarets pierced the sky as calls to prayer echoed. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over ancient walls. The next morning, Sarah found the Red Cross office in a quiet neighborhood near the Ravi River. She presented her credentials and the information she had gathered. The Red Cross archivist, Mr. Abbas, appeared sympathetic. We assisted many refugees then, he said. Some records were transferred to local orphanages or hospitals. We must search a different archive room. He led her down a dim corridor to a locked door. Behind it were cardboard boxes filled with case files from the 1940s. They opened box after box, files on children separated from families, amputees, women seeking assistance. Sarah's hands trembled as she flipped through faded documents. Then she found it, a file labeled Farzana Akhtar, Case 47A, 092. Inside was a small photograph, a young woman, smiling shyly, her dark hair pinned back and her left leg bandaged. Sarah recognized the delicate features she had seen in old family photographs. It was her great-grandmother, Ella. The file detailed that Farzana was relocated to a convent run by nuns on the outskirts of Lahore. She learned to make handicrafts, stitching quilts and embroidery. The convent cared for her until she became fully independent. But by 1950, she had vanished from the records again. No indication of where she went or how she survived thereafter. She had left the convent with a married couple who promised to help her find her long-lost family. After that, nothing. Sarah's tears fell freely. She gently closed the file, her heart heavy with the weight of unanswered questions. She had learned that Ella had survived the immediate aftermath of the riots, had found temporary safety, had tried to rebuild her life despite her injury. Yet no records existed of her final fate. Sarah realized that, in a way, this mirrored the chaos of partition. So many lives severed, histories forever lost to the smoke of war and separation. That evening, Sarah sat on a wooden bench by the Ravi River, where the sun set in a blaze of crimson and gold. She clutched the photograph to her heart. Emotions surged, sorrow for her great-grandmother's suffering, admiration for her courage, and a deep relief that Ella had not perished in the chaos. Sarah whispered a prayer, hoping her great-grandmother had found peace somewhere. The river's calm waters seemed to reflect her silent vow. She would continue searching until she unearthed every fragment of the story. Returning to Jaipur weeks later, Sarah carried more than just a story. She carried a mission. She planned to compile her findings, her great-grandparents' last letters, the archive's notes, the photograph, into a memoir to share with her family and future generations. She wanted to honor Ella's memory, to fill the silence that had shrouded her fate for decades. When Sarah presented Kamala with the photograph and the case file, her grandmother wept softly, fingers trembling as she traced the image of her long-lost mother's face. For the first time in nearly 80 years, they felt a fragile sense of closure. Sarah's journey had been steeped in suspense and emotion, a mysterious letter, frantic archive searches, border crossings, and the agonizing realization that some stories remain unfinished. Yet in discovering even pieces of the past, she had stitched together her family's broken narrative. As she walked through the dusty lanes of their ancestral home, she glanced up at the sky, imagining Ella's spirit watching over them, finally at peace. Under the night's canopy of stars, Sarah felt her ancestors' presence surrounding her. Their love, sacrifices, and resilience coursed through her veins. She whispered an unspoken promise, "I will keep your story alive." And somewhere, she sensed, great-grandmother Ella would smile.